Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. This is Todd with Industrial Comfort. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to turn a charred oak whiskey tasting cup. Now if you saw the first two videos, you'll know that this was a pretty epic fail. So I'm going to show you what I've done differently to get this to work. And as they say, third time is a charm. Now the whole reason I'm doing this is because whiskey is stored in charred oak barrels, and aged for that matter. And so I thought that drinking whiskey from a charred oak container like this will do nothing but, aside from look cool, enhance the flavor profile. So when we're done, I'm going to call Joel from the Whiskey Rocks podcast back over, and we're going to do a quick whiskey tasting to see whether or not this thing works. Let's get started. Okay, for round 3, and I'm hoping that the third time is going to be a charm, I'm using the same technique just to build the prototype where I laminated 4 pieces of white oak, not red oak, but white oak together in a 3x3 configuration to get this thing shaped out. So the first thing I'm going to do is rough it over, and then I will go ahead and bring the bowl gouge over and we'll start shaping it out. If you've seen the previous 2 videos where I've attempted to make this oak whiskey tasting cup, you'll notice that the approach is identical, with the exception that this time I'm using white oak. Now, if you haven't seen the videos, I've created this almost teardrop bulbous form, as the inside will increase the surface area by which the whiskey will make contact, therefore hopefully aiding in the transfer of flavor from the oak into the whiskey. Now secondly, I have created a much narrower opening to really harness that scent. And so, as you're hopefully aware, scent plays such a huge role in taste that my thought is we'll concentrate that scent with a narrower opening at the top here, which again will hopefully aid in changing that flavor profile. So I've given it a nice toasty finish on the inside. I finished the exterior with wood turner's finish, which is a food safe finish. So we'll part it off, we'll sand it, and then what I'm going to do is give it a test run before we invite Joel over, just to make sure that it works. Okay, so as I mentioned in the second video, I'm going to go ahead and test this before we invite Joel over for the whiskey tasting, so that I don't embarrass myself if this thing leaks again. Now, as I mentioned, I have changed from using red oak to white oak, which has a much tighter grain structure, so I am praying that this doesn't leak. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, so far so good. Could this actually make the difference? All right, well, let's sit here for a little bit. We'll come back and we'll make sure that this is whiskey tight. Okay, time for the moment of truth. So this cup has been sitting here for about 5 minutes. Dry as a bone. So it looks like third time was a charm, and white oak is the key to making a tasting cup that won't leak. So now that we've got a cup that's not going to leak from white oak, I'm going to call Joel over here for a proper whiskey tasting to see what the white oak does to the flavor of the whiskey that we're going to try. Alright, so I've got Joel here in the house from the Whiskey Rocks podcast. So if you didn't see the first video, Joel, why don't you explain to people what this podcast is about?
So what we do on the Whiskey Rocks podcast, we take whiskey, we take rock and roll, we find a way to pair them together. We typically take a brand and a band and find all the parallels to kind of give people a story around that bottle you're drinking and the band you're listening to. Sometimes we'll actually have distilleries on, sometimes we'll have rock bands on. It's a lot of fun, and it gives me a reason to drink on a Friday evening.
I like it.
Right.
And this guy is killing it. So I'll put a link in the description. If you haven't checked it out before, check it out. It's really cool.
Thanks, Todd.
So as I was explaining before you came over, my fatal mistake from the first 2 tries was that I used red oak instead of white oak.
Right.
And third time's a charm, as I said 9 times on this video, but this is holding, it's not leaking. So I really want you to tell me, is this working?
Okay.
Is this a novelty, or does this actually work? And how does it change the flavor profile of the whiskey that we're going to taste?
All right. Well, I mean, I'm happy to dig in. I will say, I mean, sometimes when I have enough bourbon, I leak. So, you know, and that's pretty common, right? But we'll start with regular glasses, right?
Yeah.
I saw some of the comments on the last video, and they were kind of giving us some grief about what we were drinking, right?
Hey, nothing wrong with Wild Turkey, baby.
Well, we were drinking Wild Turkey 81 shelf proof, so I
you don't
said,
even like that.
So whatever. I said, let's bring over the Kentucky Spirit. This is Wild Turkey's single barrel 101 product, essentially, right? So we all know Wild Turkey 101. This is their 9-year single barrel product, meaning it's not blended. It's all from one barrel. This one came from Warehouse A on Rick #1, and it was selected by Jimmy and Eddie Russell, which if you know anything about whiskey, those are the guys behind Wild Turkey. So pretty cool. All right, so we're gonna taste it out of this one first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. It's got a great nose. It's got that great Wild Turkey nose. a lot of that dark stone fruit on the nose.
This is really good.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a good bourbon, and just you can drink it out of a red Solo cup. It's, it's a good bourbon in general. So I mean we got a nice taste of it there, right? A lot of those vanilla, caramel, stone fruit on the nose, a little bit of the rice spice on the end. It's got a great mouthfeel, but it doesn't last too long. It's not super
great.
hot, right? Well balanced, really well balanced. Let's taste it now in the oak cup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what I love about this idea is that this is where whiskey comes from. It is aged for years. Like this was aged for 9 years in a barrel, just like this, right? So let's drink where it is aged from, right?
I love it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's, to me, it makes sense, right? Like, drink it where it was aged.
And check it out.
No leakage?
It's holding its whiskey.
No leakage?
Nope. It's dry as
Look at that. Look at that. No leakage this time.
Cheers, man.
All right, let's give it a whiff. I mean, you definitely pick up more of the tannins, right? You get a lot more of the oak tannin, which you should expect, right? I mean, you're smelling the oak. So, when you compare the noses on the two, I mean, you're picking up more of that like toasted marshmallow or like almost like a s'more type flavor on the nose, right?
And the cool thing about it is you drink from a cup like this, and you can you put a flame back in it, rechar it.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can recharge it. Like
right. It's a rechargeable smart cup, right? I mean, you get a lot more sweetness.
I was just going to say that.
It's a lot sweeter, right?
Yeah.
This was good on its own. Let's not say that.
Absolutely,
right? But it's definitely a lot sweeter coming out of the wood, coming out of the oak. So it's picking up a lot more of those. It's like a deeper caramel, a deeper brown sugar type of profile coming out on the taste. And I mean, once again, that's the wood doing its work, right?
I can't pinpoint the word to describe it, but it smells. Just the smell, it's like warm and comforting.
Yeah.
It's like a very homey
type
of smell.
It's like if Yankee Candle made a drink and you can just drink it, right? That's kind of what that smell reminds me of a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, and once again, no leakage.
No leaks, yeah.
Woo!
Just the mark of excellence down there.
Just the mark of excellence.
Well, hey, buddy, I really appreciate you coming over and giving me your point of view, because it's one thing for me to say it, but to have a third party come in and
have a professional drunk. Just say it, Todd.
No, this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me over.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. And for you viewers out there, really appreciate you watching. If you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.